I first saw Evelyn on a warm spring afternoon, her auburn hair catching the sunlight like wildfire, her laughter a melody that lit up the quiet corners of our small town. She was the kind of girl who didn't belong to just one place. She belonged to movement, to stories, to dreams. But somehow, for a time, she belonged with me. My name is Aidan. I lived in the narrow part of the town where brick walls cracked with age, where families shared bread more often than dreams. I didn't have much, just a small apartment above my uncle's workshop and a heart too big for my own good. Evelyn was different. Her father was a retired professor, cultured, dignified. Her mother was soft-spoken but sharp-eyed, always analyzing, always calculating. They didn't look down on me, at least not at first. Evelyn made sure of that. We met at the library. I was there repairing an old bookshelf for extra money. She was lost between poetry books and pressed flowers. I accidentally dropped a hammer near her foot, and she jumped, laughing like I'd told the funniest joke in the world. "Are you always this graceful?" she teased. "I only drop things when someone beautiful walks by," I replied, surprising both of us with my honesty. That day, we had coffee in the little corner cafe across the street. That was the beginning, simple, soft, innocent. Evelyn and I began spending every evening together after that first coffee. She called me Sunshine Boy, said I lit up her world in a way chandeliers never could. She had a flair for the dramatic, quoting Shakespeare between sips of cheap lemonade. I'd smile and tell her that my life before her felt like a book with missing pages. We had no money, no fancy dinners, no car rides to coastal cities. But we had fireflies in empty fields, blanket picnics under rustling trees, and stolen kisses. In the golden hour light, one night, we walked down a narrow dirt road, hand in hand. Fireflies blinked like little stars fallen to earth. "This is magic," Evelyn whispered. "No," I said. "You are." She turned, her eyes reflecting moonlight. "You always say the right thing, Aidan, even when you don't mean to." "I always mean it with you." Then I kissed her, and it wasn't clumsy or rushed, it was slow, like a sunrise warming frozen skin. She pressed against me like she never wanted the world to move again. We stayed in that moment until the fireflies disappeared and the cold nudged us apart. At home, I'd lie awake some nights, wondering what she saw in me. She was elegance, poetry, and velvet dreams. I was grease-stained hands, second-hand shirts, and half-earned wages. But she came back every day. That was enough for me to believe it was real. A pause in her voice when I said "I love you," a longer silence between her replies. She started canceling plans, first for her cousin's visit, then for her mother's dinner, and eventually with no reason at all. But every time I looked into her eyes, I wanted to believe the love was still there. I was too blind to see the shift, until one evening, she asked, "Aidan, do you ever think about what you'll become?" "I think about building something, starting my own little carpentry business. Not much, but steady work." She looked away. "No, I mean, more than that. Bigger. I'll never be a millionaire, Evelyn. You know that." She nodded slowly, like that truth sat heavy in her chest. That same week, she mentioned someone named Julian Carter. Rich, sophisticated, the son of a real estate mogul from the city. He'd just moved into town. "He's not like what you'd expect," she told me with an oddly soft smile. I tried to laugh it off. "And what would I expect? Someone arrogant. But he's different, kind. He offered to help my father with something. We just talked, that's all." But it wasn't just talk. A few days later, I saw them together through the bookstore window, Julian with his tailored suit and crisp watch, Evelyn laughing that laugh that used to be mine. He offered her his coat when the wind blew too hard. She let him. When she noticed me across the street, she froze. I didn't wave. I just walked away, heart pounding, chest hollow. After that day outside the bookstore, something inside me cracked. Not all at once, but slowly, like glass under pressure. I didn't confront her. I didn't need to. The truth was already unraveling, thread by thread, in her silence. We didn't talk for 3 days. Then one evening, I saw her waiting by my door. She looked nervous, arms folded tight around herself like a girl trying to hold her world together. "Aidan," she said softly. I stepped aside to let her in, but the space between us was already too wide. She stood by the window, looking out, speaking as if we were characters in someone else's story. He invited me to his family's dinner. It was formal, fancy. I didn't mean for it to. I didn't mean to hurt you. I sat on the edge of the table, trying to make sense of her voice. It sounded far away, So you're with him now? I asked. No, she whispered quickly. Not like that. I don't even know what I want. You just don't want me anymore. She turned, eyes filled with sudden tears. That's not fair, isn't it? I stood now, not angry, just tired. You came into my life like a song I didn't know I needed, and now you're slowly fading out, verse by verse, Aidan. I don't want to lose you. Then why are you pushing me away? She had no answer, only silence. After she left, the apartment felt colder, smaller. The walls held memories like wounds. The places where we kissed, where she laughed, where we dreamed. I stopped going to the library, stopped walking past the bookstore. I threw myself into work, sanding down wood with hands that trembled more than I'd admit. But no matter how hard I worked, I couldn't carve her out of me. Julian Carter had everything I didn't: a last name that opened doors, a tailored life polished by wealth, and the kind of quiet confidence that only money could buy. But more than that, he had Evelyn's attention. And soon, he had her time, her laughter, her quiet glances. I saw them often at Tea the Cafe, where she and I used to share cold lemonade in chipped mugs. She now sipped imported coffee from porcelain cups. He brought her flowers that didn't wilt, gifts in gold-embossed boxes, whispered promises in the back of black cars. I told myself it wasn't serious, that maybe she was confused, that maybe she'd come back to me when she saw what love really meant. But then, one evening, I passed the lake where we used to skip stones. I had gone there to be alone, to remember a version of her that still belonged to me. And there she was standing by the edge, her hair lifted by the wind, his coat draped over her shoulders. He kissed her, not rushed, not desperate, but gently, like he had all the time in the world. I didn't stay to see her kiss him back. I didn't have to. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my workbench, carving a piece of oak into a small music box, one she once said she dreamed of owning. It played La Vie en Rose, her favorite. When it was done, I locked it in a drawer. She wasn't mine anymore. After I saw Evelyn with Julian by the lake, I stopped trying to lie to myself. She was gone. Not in body, I still saw her around town, but in spirit, in heart, in the little things that used to connect us like thread through fabric. She had unraveled. So I started writing her letters, not to send them, just to survive. Dear Evelyn, I saw you today, wearing his coat. You used to wear my flannel shirts when it got cold, remember? You'd roll the sleeves 3 times because they were too big, and then pretend to be annoyed. I wonder if his clothes feel warmer than mine ever did. I dangled her to Evelyn. I'm not angry. That's the worst part. I thought I would be, but I'm just empty, like a room after the music stops. I still hear your voice echoing in my mind, and I still set the second mug out in the morning. Stupid habits die slowly. A letter 3. Evelyn, you once told me you wanted a life filled with laughter and windows that opened to cities we hadn't named yet. I wanted that too. I still do. But I guess I was just the prologue, and he's the real story. Adani wrote dozens of them. Some angry, some aching, some just scribbles on napkins or the back of receipts. I never sent a single one, but they helped me let go piece by piece. And slowly, I started to find myself again, in the grain of wood, in the rhythm of carving, in the silence of healing. That silence, once unbearable, became a space to grow, until one day, something unexpected happened. She came back. Part 7, The Return. Evelyn reappears, broken by what she thought she wanted coming next. Would you like that reunion to be slow and emotional, or sudden and intense, with tears and confessions? You said, Part 7, The Return. ChatGap said, here is the long-awaited, emotional next chapter. Evelyn returns. It was late September when she came back, the kind of day where the sky felt heavy with change, gray clouds hanging low, leaves rustling like secrets on the wind. I had just closed the shop early, the scent of pine and sawdust clinging to my hands, when I heard the soft knock on the door. I opened it, expecting a delivery or a neighbor. It was her, Evelyn. She stood there in the drizzle, soaked from head to toe, no umbrella, no plan. Just her, the girl I once loved more than breath itself, looking at me like I was the only familiar thing left in her world. Her voice was a whisper. Hi, Aidan. For a moment, I couldn't speak. All the words I thought I'd say if this day ever came, they vanished like smoke. She looked thinner, paler. Her eyes carried shadows, the kind that don't come from lack of sleep but from regret. Can I come in? She asked. I stepped aside wordlessly. She entered like someone walking through a memory. We sat across from each other, a silence years in the making pressing between us. "I shouldn't have come," she said finally, her voice trembling. But I didn't know where else to go. I folded my arms, not angry, just cautious. "Why now?" She bit her lip, eyes glistening. "Because I thought I was choosing the life I wanted. Julian had everything on paper. Money, status, a future mapped out like a brochure. But it was empty, Aidan. Cold. Every time I smiled, I felt like I was lying. I didn't respond. I let her speak. He never made me feel the way you did. He never looked at me like I was a person, just a prize. And I kept thinking, maybe this is what love becomes when you grow up. But it wasn't love. Not really." She paused, trying to read my face. "I was stupid. I was selfish. And I'm not asking you to forgive me tonight. I had to see you again. I had to tell you that I made a mistake." Tears rolled down her cheeks now, and she didn't bother wiping them away. "I lost myself, Aidan. And I lost you. I don't deserve a second chance. But if there's even the smallest part of you that still believes in us, I had to try." I stood, quietly, letting the weight of her words settle. I had imagined this moment so many times, yelling, crying, slamming the door. But now that it was here, all I saw was a girl I still loved, even through the cracks. Finally, I walked over and sat beside her. "I wrote you letters," I said softly. "Dozens. I never sent them." She turned to me, her voice a breath. "What did they say?" "They said I missed you, that I hated you, that I loved you, that I hoped you'd come back. Some said all that in the same paragraph." She smiled through tears. "I'm sorry, Aidan, for all of it." I reached out, gently brushing a strand of wet hair from her face. "Then, stay," I said. "Not just tonight, but if you're going to stay, mean it this time. Don't come back just to leave again." She nodded slowly. "I'm not running anymore." And in that moment, as she rested her head against my chest and I held her like the world outside didn't exist, I knew this wasn't a return to what we had. It was the beginning of something new, something earned, something real, healing. Didn't happen all at once. It didn't come with fireworks or some magical reset. It came slowly in morning coffees shared on the front steps of my shop, in quiet walks through the same fields where we once chased fireflies, in laughter that returned one hesitant note at a time. Evelyn didn't try to erase the past. She owned it. Some days, the guilt showed on her face like shadows under her eyes, but she never ran from it. And that more than anything let me trust her again. We started over, not as strangers, but as survivors of a love that nearly broke us. She began helping at the shop, her fingers delicate but steady as she sanded smooth the edges of my carvings. We made music boxes together, the same kind I had once built for her and locked away in a drawer. When I gave it to her finally, she cried. Not because of the song it played, but because I never stopped making space for her in my world. Over time, the town stopped whispering. People saw us together again, and while a few raised eyebrows lingered, most simply nodded. Life has a way of softening its judgments when it sees love persist. One evening, almost a year after her return, I brought her back to the same hilltop where we once kissed beneath the fireflies. The moonlight was gentle, the breeze warm. I held her hand, and this time, I wasn't afraid of losing her. I used to think love was about the big moments, I told her, but it's not. It's about staying even when it hurts, even when it's hard. She leaned into me, smiling softly. "Then I'll stay forever if you let me." I pulled a small ring from my pocket, not expensive, but hand-carved, with her initials intertwined with mine on the inside. "I'm not asking for perfect," I said. "Just honest, just real. Will you marry me, Evelyn?" Tears filled her eyes, but this time they weren't from regret. They were from grace. "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times yes. We married that fall under a canopy of golden leaves, with only close friends and the music box playing our song. She wore a simple white dress, barefoot on the grass, hair wild and free. I built us a small home on the edge of town, with wide windows that opened to trees and sunlight and possibility. We didn't have much, but we had each other, and every time I woke up with her curled beside me, soft breathing, tangled sheets, her hand on my chest, I knew healing feels like coming home. Not to a place, but to a person.